And to other matters now, former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson will on Wednesday defend his position on claims that he deliberately misled Parliament while serving as Premier. Mr. Johnson will give evidence to a parliamentary committee investigating his claim that COVID-19 rules and guidelines were followed, quote, at all times during his time in number 10 Downing Street. The former UK leader has already admitted in written evidence that he accepts the comments made to Parliament in December 2021 were misleading, but denies that he made them intentionally. For more on this lingering controversy, a global affairs analyst, Gbenga Onifade, joins me now from the United Kingdom. Good to have you join us, Gbenga Onifade. Very interesting and a day full of intrigue in the UK. We understand that live grilling at Parliament has now started. But what is the significance of this, and what does it mean for, or how critical is it for Boris Johnson's political future?
Well, I mean, if we're going to start from the bottom, which is if, this is actually ongoing right now. But if we're going to talk about what might be the outcome, which of course nobody knows, I think Boris Johnson is quite a polarizing figure, if I can say, during his premiership. And should we say his act actually was more of a substance than what he could actually do as a prime minister. So, I mean, if he's found guilty, he could literally end either way. It could be a fine, number one. It could be one whereby he gets a suspension, from the Commons, from the House of Commons, and which could trigger a by-election in his constituency, which is in Uxbridge and South Ruislip. And of course, again, it could create more division in the Conservative Party, which is already deeply divided, because right now everyone is focused on bridging the gap eventually. I mean, this whole thing stemmed from the fact that there's the animosity from the people who feel like, there's always one rule for you and another for the rest of the people. We had a lot of people who said they could not attend funerals. Even the Queen's husband died, and she could not attend. And you got parties, or you got pictures leaking out of the Prime Minister who actually made the rules with his colleagues having a party. So of course this is a really, really difficult situation, but at the same time they want democracy to prevail. The rule of law should be followed. Of course, Boris Johnson, again, he's been fined once at the Partygate, and what Boris is arguing at the same time is that this is the rule at that time that should have applied. I have been dealt with. We should have to move on. But unfortunately, he has to provide a dossier, to defend himself, which he provided, a 50-page dossier. And this is actually, ending up to him being grilled right now, which is going to last about 4 hours presently.
But he's also arguing that he accepts that he misled Parliament, but he says that he did not do so intentionally. He's had a lot of denials and acceptance in between all of what is now being called the Partygate. Do you think that, what's your thought on that particular statement?
It's difficult to trust what comes out of what Boris Johnson is saying. You got to think about the pros. The pros will say, well, there you go, another guy, he's just said he's not misled party, but the people, his supporters will say, but we know these guys love to play to the crowd. He's a popular people. While the other guys, he's not so supporters, will say, well, there you go then. Whenever he shots, he comes out, he just has to draw a crowd. That's not great enough. Another thing is we had pictures leaking out, with sandwiches. But what Boris is saying is it was just a sandwich party. It wasn't a big deal. It was just a people leaving party, which I think is fair. But at the same time, if you look at the pictures, the people were not, we had the social distancing rule at that time. People are not exactly socially distanced from each other. So again, that might, they might just ask him, listen, to a blind person, we can't tell this is a party going on. They might have to read it differently. This is Boris Johnson trying to defend himself. Another thing that's very important is in his dossier, the word party came up a few times, but Absolutely. What Boris he's already saying is that, I'm actually playing to the media. You call it a party, I'm going to call it your party because that's what you want. I'm not going to redefine what the party or what the word party is.
Well, we will both have to go and catch up with that live grilling by the House of Commons and then eventually talk about the outcome. Thank you so much for talking to us, as always. Global Affairs Analyst, Benga Nifadi.
Thanks for having me.